Yellow has great Australian businesses that you can rely on.
Yellow. Yellow.
From doctors to dog groomers.
Yellow. Yellow.
And did you know you can book appointments for whatever you need, all in one place?
Yellow. 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 Yellow.
Need it? Yellow has it.
Yellow.
Find, choose, connect at yellowpages.com.au.
Yellow. Yellow.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this special Yellow Live. My name is Christian Lydiard and thank you for joining us today. Today is all about uncovering opportunities for businesses that are currently already utilising search engine marketing as a technique to help your business grow. So we're going to go a little deeper today, and it's all about finding those special things that you can do to maximise the results. So joining me to help uncover that is Damien Salter. Welcome, Damien. And
Hello.
Michael Watkins.
Hello.
Now, we've got two of you today, and that's because you guys are both very well qualified in the topic of search engine marketing. In fact, you guys are what's called Google Squared accredited. Now, there are lots of different providers around Australia and globally where people can do an online test to become Google accredited. I've done that test myself, and it's difficult, right? But you guys have actually taken your education and understanding of Google and particularly their search engine marketing products to a new level, right? So, Michael, tell us what the Google Squared program is.
Look, it's one of many different certification programs that you can have, but essentially the digital world's changing really quickly. We sort of want to have our one foot in the future and one foot in the present to make sure that we can provide the right advice to not only our reps and our teammates, but also through to our customers, so you can maximise your opportunity on Google.
Great. Now, Damien, the course itself is quite extensive, right? So this is not an online course. Tell us about that.
Yeah, correct. And Christian, to expand on Michael's point, it's really comprehensive. So it's over a number of months. So it's not just jump onto a course, sit a test. It really looks at not only Google and AdWords and the Google advertising programs, but how they fit into the greater marketing mix for a business, and how you can really apply it to real world scenarios to achieve great results.
Now, this is a qualification that not many people in Australia have. So we're talking very low numbers of people, probably less than 100 people across Australia have this level of certification, and it's a very new sort of qualification that Google entered. So these guys know this stuff and they're going to help guide us through this. So let's talk a little bit to begin with advertising in general. So last year in Australia, about $15.2 billion was spent on advertising. Now, more than half of that is now spent on digital advertising, so 51%. And then, of course, that lion's share is spent on search marketing, which is what we're speaking about today. It's a real change, Michael. It's moving quickly.
Yeah, I think the big thing here is that this is the first time ever that digital marketing has taken over traditional media from a spend point of view. And that's really simply because the opportunity that digital has provided businesses to connect with their customers and be able to optimize it through measurement is really amazing. I always think back to pay-per-click or search started in 1996. It's decades old now, but where it started to where it's now is two totally different things.
Yeah. Damien, in your time with the business, how have you seen it evolve?
Yeah, it's one of those things. Digital marketing's now that much more advanced as far as what we can track, how quickly we can change, and how we can adapt to an individual business. That it really forms the cornerstone of most small and medium businesses' marketing platforms. And as consumers, we've now become so much more attached, even in the past 5 years, to our mobile devices. I couldn't even imagine leaving the house with mine, and if I needed to find something while on the run, it's now just pull my phone out of my pocket.
Yep.
And so digital marketing's become critical when connecting with consumers who are looking for products or services.
I really rarely let go of mine. It's always in my hand. It's just a standard piece now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, search engine marketing, particularly in the last couple of years, has continued to grow very quickly. So the ad spend continues to increase, and we've got a screenshot to just help illustrate that. But particularly, if we go back 2 years, that's accelerated very quickly, Michael.
Yeah, it's growing. It's going to continue to grow. One of the interesting things about this growth is, at the same time, whilst the overall spend is growing, the cost per clicks and the efficiencies that are being gained, they're actually going in a trend the other way. So people are getting more out of digital marketing and they're doing more of it.
We'll move to the next slide now to illustrate that in another way. So the real estate on the page is now being heavily dominated by the advertising, right? So in Australia, Google is the predominant search engine for when people are browsing and looking for products and services perhaps. But the screen size is really being completely dominated by ads today.
Yeah, about 84% of searches on Google. So Bing's doing a dint in that, about 14%. But what is interesting about this transition is the amount of real estate, and essentially page one is the real estate where your business needs to be found. And you can, if you contrast the start to the end, there is without doubt in most cases nowhere else to be but except for in the ad spots. And of course that's directed by Google wanting to make revenue out of it, but they wouldn't be able to do that if consumers weren't having a good experience. So that's the other part to remember with this space.
So the relevancy, and we'll touch on that in a bit more detail. And of course, we've just put examples on the screen which were desktops, but if you're searching on a mobile phone today, which over half of people do, and most searches happen on a smartphone, then the whole screen is dominated by ads first.
Yeah, that's right. Look, the search stops when you find what you're looking for. And so AdWords or search engine marketing is simply a way for you as a business to control what you're saying to the person who's having that search.
Okay. So Damien, let's look at another quick slide. So how is consumers searching? What are people doing? So 74% are looking for products and services via search engines, with 91% looking on the first page of Google.
Yeah, that's right, Christian. As I spoke about before, now it is really the first place we turn to when we have a need within our daily life. If I need a plumber to come out and fix my tap, if I need a doctor in my local area, or if I want to buy a brand new sport coat, like Michael must have today.
Thank you.
Then it's the first place that I turn to. So it's absolutely critical for businesses to be to appear to give themselves a chance to be part of that purchasing decision that a consumer might be making.
Definitely. There's a lot of opportunity. We're going to dig a bit deeper and go into some definitions. So we know that everybody watching today is either using the yellow search engine marketing product, or they may be using search engine marketing themselves at home. So we're going to talk about definitions in a moment. But recently, Terry Kennedy, who's one of our national sales managers, was actually able to catch up with Kristen, who is a strategic partner manager from Google. So let's hear some tips and trends that they gave us insights into.
So Google's #1 mission is to bring information to the world. So, and whatever way we can do that, so you know that we've got search, we've got Google Maps, we've got all the different products to use it to its advantage, is to be relevant and bring relevant information to their users. So if you think about it in the sense that you have a product to sell or a service to offer, and the end user has a problem that needs to be solved. So think about, does your product, firstly, are you able to solve their problem? Secondly, are you in a location where you're able to service them? And thirdly, are you able to provide them a quick and seamless solution? If yes to all three of those questions, that is exactly where you will be able to use Google to the best benefit for your business to reach the right audience at the right ROI for you.
Thank you. Second question, the majority of Australians now use their mobile phones very frequently, often more than 150 times a day. I know for me it's probably more. With that in mind, are there specific tips that can assist businesses when it comes to mobile search and maximising their conversions?
Definitely. So there's two main tips with mobile advertising that needs to be done. The first one, if they haven't already, definitely have a mobile-friendly website. So if you don't have a mobile-friendly website, if someone clicks on your ad and then comes to a desktop site and can't navigate it and it's clunky and slows them down, they're going to be more likely to bounce off your site, and you've just lost that one customer. So to make sure that your website is mobile friendly, if you just Google mobile friendly test, a Google tool will come up that will allow you to put your URL into Google, and it will tell you how mobile friendly your site is. If your site is performing poorly, I'd recommend you talk to your web developer, or your Yellow account manager will be able to help you with this as well. So that's just one tip. So the second tip, so having a mobile friendly website is no longer enough. So users have become increasingly frustrated and want things quickly. So if speed thrills, friction then kills. So 40% of users will bounce off a website if it takes longer than just 3 seconds to load. So if you have a mobile website, that's great, but if it takes 20 seconds to load, then you're still going to lose that user. So the next mission that we have at Google is to make sure that your website has a fast page speed. So there's a tool called Test My Site. If you Google again, Test My Site, and your Yellow account manager will be able to help you with this. It'll tell you how fast your website is loading in real time and what improvements you can make to speed that up. So I definitely recommend you do those two things.
Great, thank you. Is there anything on the horizon that we need to be aware of that small business should be looking out for?
Yes, so as I said before around page speed, that's going to become even more important.
So some really interesting insights there, Damien, particularly around obviously having a mobile-friendly website, very important, but also speed, right?
Yeah, definitely. When we look at all online advertising, but particularly in the mobile space, consumers have an expectation that it is delivered to them quickly. We don't want to wait, and if we're made to wait, we will just move on to the next business.
Yes.
To purchase from or to call.
Yeah.
And to really push that message, 1 second is 20% in conversions. So for every second longer your site takes to load, you're losing 20% in opportunity.
Great. We're going to dig a little bit deeper now into what some of the definitions are around different things you may have heard in relation to search engine marketing. And we'll also tie it back to some of those insights that Google has just given us as well. So, Michael, what is ad rank?
Ad rank. Okay, so if you think back to when Google first started pay-per-click, the ads were all over the place. And so what was happening was people were clicking on ads and they weren't matching what the consumer was looking for. So Google had to make sure that there was some sort of algorithm or formula for deciding which ad appears when to make sure it's being matched. So we'll bring up on screen the formula. And it can be quite complex, but essentially there's a few important elements. The first one is the bid, what you're prepared to pay. The second one is the quality score, so how Google ranks and its opinion of the quality of not just your ad, but the structure and how you've set up your campaign, as well as the history of how you've had performance in the past too. It basically takes those two things and then looks at where the ads will appear. So what that means for a business is, just because you're going to put more in your bid doesn't mean you're going to be at the top, doesn't mean you're going to win the auction. And that's a really good opportunity for someone who knows what they're doing to really massage that and make sure that they're getting the most amount of the clicks for the least amount of dollars.
So Damien, this is a really good myth to bust, right?
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily the person who's prepared to pay the most. It's just not that simple. This is an auction that is very dependent on those other factors.
That's right, and Google as a company and as a search engine are all about the consumer's experience. And if the people using the search engine aren't seeing ads which are relevant to them and clicking on them, well, they're not going to make any money. So they factor in both how much a business is willing to pay to appear at the top of a search result, but also how relevant the ad is to the consumer, how well it's set up, how much people interact with it, and a whole bunch of other factors which really go down to that end consumer experience. We saw a few slides ago the space over time that's been taken up by advertising on a search engine. And as the space has increased, so has our level of interaction with the ads, and so has the sophistication behind how they're served to us.
Yeah, that's a good point too. When we look at all of our campaign managers are obviously certified and keep up to date with this, but one of the columns on that diagram before was format. And Google continues to add bits to that equation to make it more complex. So format essentially means are you making the most of the available extensions and using those in the right way? And that's been added only relatively recently in the last couple of years, as opposed to the rest had been there since it first really started.
So one of the factors that we spoke about a moment ago, Michael, was quality score. So before I get you to explain what is quality score, I guess I wanted to highlight for our customers the benefit to making sure that you have a good quality score, because that can impact certainly the way you're getting traffic to your site and what you're paying, right? So quality score is critical to make sure that you're maximising the opportunity, and unless you know how to do that, you could be paying more, right? So there could be a lot of wasted budget if you're not doing this well. So what is quality score?
So quality score is made up of a few key factors. The first one is really around about the relevancy of the keyword and what you're saying you want to bid on. So remember, with search, it's all based on what consumers are asking for. They're asking Google, will you find me a plumber in this area, or where do I buy that blue shirt or jacket? So that combination of keyword is really important. One of the other pieces though that it looks at too is the end-to-end journey. So it's not just about what you put in your keywords, it's about the ad that you display, so the choice of wording doesn't match what that person's looking for, and the destination. So when they click on the ad, where do they land? Kristen mentioned that it's about that on-page experience, and why would you invest in sending someone to a page that's not mobile friendly where they can't do anything? So it looks at all of those different factors.
And we talk about, and Google talks about relevancy. In fact, anyone that you ever talk to when it's coming to digital marketing, and particularly websites, talks about relevancy today, Damien. So that relevancy is critical, right?
It is.
So you need to think about the structure of your website in order to get the most from this.
Yeah, correct. And it's not just about relevancy of one particular item. It's the relevancy of the whole structure of your advertising program, from the keywords that you're choosing to advertise to, the landing page or the page that you're sending the consumers who click on your ad to, all the way through to how are people interacting with your ad at the moment, and how have they interacted over time. So you saw click-through rate on the screen there. So that's how many people see your ad versus click on it.
Yes.
And that's not only current performance, but Google will also look at the historical performance of your account when it comes to click-through rate as well, and will reward advertisers who have a high click-through rate, because it's obviously relevant to a lot of other different consumers, so there's a good chance it might be relevant to the person in the moment doing the search.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of complexity there. We have algorithms that help us with it, as well as the campaign managers, but if you want the short answer, it's the right ad in the right place at the right time.
And going to the right place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Let's talk about ad extensions now. So Google has evolved quite a fair way in this, right? So the ad extensions were originally just some little extra bits of text that went to specific pages. Today there's a whole range of different ad extensions. They've got different purposes, and it's all about maximising the return for a business. So if you think about the consumer journey, they want it quickly, right? So what are ad extensions?
Okay, so this sort of comes back to that format piece of mystery that they've thrown into the algorithm, and essentially there's a few really, really simple ones and really important ones, and what we've got up on screen for you is some examples from a mobile point of view. On mobile, your thumb's right there to push the call button, so a big one is the call extensions. Another one is around location, so searching for people looking for businesses near me. That's very popular these days, becoming more popular, exponentially growth, because essentially the devices are getting better at knowing where you are.
Yeah.
So your location extensions, letting people know where you are on a map is really important too. And then the last example that we've got on screen is around more of that traditional stuff like site links. So there might be other pages on your website that are important to that decision-making process that a consumer's going through.
Yeah.
So whilst they do the search term, it might not be the ad itself that resonates, it might be the FAQs or the members club page or the warranty page on your website that is the thing that actually gets them over the line, because they may be further down the funnel than you think.
Yeah.
So they're the main ones, but as you said, there's heaps out there. There's the ratings where you get the stars, there's opportunities to put offers on, messaging's coming back into fashion as well. So there's a number of different ones, but I think the key to extensions is about using the right types for the right purpose, and really making sure that you have them filled out where you can, because at the end of the day, Google decides if it will show it or not. So you might have an ad campaign set up with your calling extensions up, but Google's decided at that particular time, for whatever reason, not to show it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, if it wasn't set up, it will never be shown, but if it is set up, doesn't mean it will be shown.
That's right.
So the extensions, they've evolved very quickly, and of course our recommendation is that you think through what the most applicable would be for your business. Damien, voice search, natural language search is emerging very, very quickly. Google recently introduced their Google My Business extension, which is the ability to have a sponsored ad in the mapping section, right?
Big change, particularly for smaller and local businesses who focus on a smaller area where there are higher value customers who are much more likely to deal with them. So many of you may have seen on your smartphones when you're using Google Maps, or on a desktop when searching through Google Maps. Now we see ads appearing at the top of searches from time to time.
Yeah.
Still a little rare, but it's going to become more and more popular as more businesses start to take advantage of those really valuable local customers.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, with voice search, we know that Google My Business and location driven voice searches, so for example, find me a pizza shop near me.
Yes.
The pizza shop who chooses to use those location extensions is going to be in the prime position to take advantage of those voice-driven searches. Isn't it?
Absolutely. And whilst we haven't had it confirmed by Google, we have seen examples where the Google My Business extension has influenced the rankings on a voice search.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said for being at the top of the lists, of course, and so whilst they probably will never admit it, there's probably a good relationship there. One of the key things with that that opportunity to being found in the maps is you must have it verified, your GMB, so your Google My Business listing must be verified and correctly installed through your AdWords platform. So for all of our customers out there, we do that for you, so we can help make sure that that's ticked off. But for anyone doing it yourself, it's a bit of a tricky process, to be honest. So
this is sounding a lot like baking a very complex cake, guys, where there's all of these different factors.
I think with extensions particularly, there's three things. One, Google and AdWords is complicated, and that's why you engage a professional to do it for you as a small and medium businesses. Two, if you don't have them, you've got no chance of utilising them. And three, we saw before with share of screen, the more extensions you include in your AdWords program, the more chance they are of appearing, and the bigger slice of the screen you're going to take up if and when your ad appears.
Yeah. All right, let's talk a little bit about making sure you're getting the right results. So you're in business and you're investing money in marketing. I'm sure one of the bugbears would be, is it working for me? So let's talk about some of the techniques that you can use. So the first one is called DWT, which is Dynamic Website Tracking. Michael, what is this?
Well, first, if you don't measure it, you'll never know, right? So DWT is probably the standard of adding a layer of proxy over the top of your site so that you can measure the clicks, the interactions, and the calls.
So to illustrate that, we've got a website. We create a mirror version of the website which sits over the top and has unique tracking mechanisms, which is generally a phone number, or it might be a form film of some description.
Yeah, so from a consumer point of view, there's no difference. I have no idea what's happening, but all it enables us to do is we can then see exactly what's happening from a performance point of view, and of course we adjust the campaign to maximise that.
I think that's the key point, Michael. The website essentially looks exactly the same. The consumer has no idea that it is any different to your standard website.
Okay. All right, let's talk now about impression share. Damien, this is probably the biggest opportunity for people that are watching today. What is impression share?
Thanks, Christian. So impression share is one of the things that we look at when we look at performance metrics for an advertising campaign to view, essentially, out of 100 searches that are done, how many do you appear for?
Yes.
And one of the big limiters often when it comes to AdWords or any sort of search advertising is how much budget have I allocated to appear for the amount of searches that I want to appear for?
Yep. So often people underestimate the size of the pie, if you like.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
So you may be investing a certain amount of revenue in your search engine marketing campaigns today, but ad impression is an indication that Google does give you, right? So you can find out your ad impression to understand what the volume may be and the opportunity.
Correct.
Yeah, there's a big yellow pie out there, and if you want to grow your business, that's probably one of the first places you'd look. You want to know if you were to do the same thing but just get more of it. Impression share is one of the biggest signals for you to take advantage, because one of the benefits you've got is you already know how your slice of the pie is working. You know what conversion rate you're getting, so you can then understand what you're going to be potentially able to get if you get a bigger slice of the pie.
Okay. Now we take all of that data and we provide performance reporting. So anybody that's watching that has a search engine marketing with Yellow has access to our reporting platform. Damien, you're going to take us through some of those insights that a person can see now. So we'll pop that on the screen.
Definitely. So this is some, I guess, high-level reporting numbers for one of our actual customers. We've chosen to remove the name just so we're not talking about them individually. But you can see the first thing you see on the screen is the total volume of clicks. And we can adjust this time frame based on whatever we want to look at. So in this instance, I think we've set it from the 1st of March onwards, 1st of February onwards, to look at, okay, what's the total volume of clicks, which we've driven to a website, essentially which wouldn't have happened without this search marketing campaign.
Okay.
Secondly, the impressions. So we talked impression share a moment ago, and an impression is how often does my ad appear for a search which is relevant to me. Okay. This particular customer does commercial cleaning and office cleaning and things like that. So essentially, how many searches for commercial cleaning, office cleaning, et cetera, were done that I could have appeared in?
Great.
Thirdly, click-through rate. We talked click-through rate briefly, but that's how many searches have I appeared in versus how many people actually clicked on my ad.
And you know, that's a bit of an indicator. Google does have a benchmark there, but it's important to make sure that relevancy and ad quality comes into play too to maximise it. So I guess a good example there would be if I was selling swimming pools and I had an ad that said, come and browse our summer range, that's a lot less strong than a call to action that may be, you know, call now for a 15% discount.
That's right, yeah. And relevance is really important. If you're in front of 100 customers, you want as many as possible seeing your ad and thinking that's relevant to their needs in the moment. As well as we talked about, the higher the click-through rate, the cheaper the cost per click due to that ad auction.
Okay, let's go back to that. So then we've got average CPC and average position. What are those?
So average CPC is the average cost per click generated across the entire campaign. So we know that this is pay-per-click advertising, which is great. It means that we're not paying for people who aren't interested in our ad and our product and service. And that's one of the great things about digital advertising is that we can reduce wastage and the levels of guessing aren't there that they are in some traditional mediums. And finally, the average position is just where are we appearing on the page. So we know a couple of years ago, Google got rid of the ads on the right-hand side of a desktop screen and increased the maximum number of advertising spots at the top of a search to 4.
Yes.
So in this instance, this advertiser on average is appearing somewhere around the 3 mark most of the time, but that's going to vary search to search, location to location, keyword to keyword.
It's still a good indicator though, to the point that you were raising or you were discussing before, Michael, around quality score. So if I was a business seeing a average position of 3.4, I don't necessarily have to spend more. It may be that my campaign can be improved through quality score, which is all about perhaps where the ad's going to.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that this is where the complexity can be to your advantage. So a 3.4 average position by itself, if you're just going to focus on that one metric, it's useless. What it means is that sometimes you're in the top 3, which is great. Sometimes you're not.
Yes.
The key to when you look at these metrics is they have to be considered in parallel to costs.
And nothing is in isolation.
No, because it could be better off for your business to actually pay more per click, because you might get more conversions in that sense. It could be better for your business to get more impressions as well. With the changes to removing the right-hand side, what we found very quickly was all of those mindsets where people were just focusing on impressions and just getting visibility out there, those campaigns suffered immensely because the main part for the impressions was on the right-hand side. Once they moved it into the more very competitive top end of Google, the game changed. So for people who were algorithmically and focusing on the outcome more, they had no issues. They had really good performance. Google's going to up the ante again. They're going to get rid of every other page except for page 1. They've been testing that for a while, so that's going to be the next change, and that's going to come out very soon. Very soon. There won't be a page 2. There'll just be the one page.
Well, we've actually already started to see that on some mobile searches as well. So it's a reality, and if you're not really competitive, programs are going to suffer.
Interesting. Let's look at the screen again. So we've got a bit of a drill down now into some keywords, Damien. What are we seeing here on the screen? And you probably have to discuss it more because it is very hard to see on the screen.
Certainly. So even without digging into the individual keyword, we talked before about the customer example we've used being a commercial cleaner, and you'll see most of the keywords, if not all, in that list are related to cleaning and commercial cleaning. And that's one of the important things when we review a keyword list. Is every single one of the top performing keywords relevant to you? And again, we talked about avoiding wastage before. If one of those keywords was for car cleaning, for example, that might be wastage and an example of where a campaign could be built better and improved and optimized to make sure that as many of the clicks going to your website are relevant to you acquiring that searcher as a customer.
Okay, and of course the keyword data again gives you insights and an impression share level, so that if you're seeing that you're only getting 10% impression share, that means that you're not appearing as often and as frequently as you potentially could be.
That's right. I think the next slide will actually show us an example of what impression share looks like. So in this instance, we have some different campaigns within the advertising focused on achieving different objectives, and we're actually able to pin down to campaign level about what the impression share is within each one of them. So you can see where people are clicking, where your budget is going within the advertising campaign, and what you're appearing for and what you're not. Because we know that if you're not appearing in front of a potential customer, you simply don't have the opportunity to be considered to transact.
Let's take another look at a video. very quickly to understand just what's going on when it comes to consumers.
Does it work? Now people ask us all the time, how do I get into work?
So we know that people today live in a connected world. We don't just visit online, we spend time online, we live online. And we know that customers take actions in micro moments. So these are those snippets of time where people really don't have long to find information. Basically, you've got 2 seconds. So let's put that slide up. Michael, 2 seconds to get connected. What should businesses be doing?
Really trying to understand the different mindsets of your customer. Purchase process is probably the big one. So, depending on, like, let's say you're a plumber. If you're a plumber and someone's looking for emergency repairs, well, they're going to want to see the details on how you're going to come out and give them a free quote straight away. But if they're looking for a hot water system replacement, they might be looking for a bit more about what sort of brands you service as well. So there's 2 good examples of where the decision process is totally different. So you need to make sure you separate your campaign and really focus on those different parts of that decision journey.
Yeah. Now, the video that was played a moment ago was really loud, right? So the guys have said to me, oh, the audio was very loud. So that could trigger a micro moment though, right? Where somebody gets their phone out and they're looking for earmuffs or maybe hearing aids or something. Damien, 2 seconds is not a long time. Google's even talking about it being 1 second now.
Yeah.
Mobile friendly and the speed piece is very important.
Correct. So we talked about before that people have a need for immediacy. We don't wait till we get home to search for our needs anymore. So having a great quality mobile website, even thinking mobile first with your website for your business is really, we've seen mobile search overtake desktop search, but we still design websites on a desktop.
Yes.
So have a think as a business owner, your next website, you should really design that with a mobile phone in mind first and a website second. Secondly, give people as many different opportunities to contact you as possible. So as Michael spoke about, tell them about their need in the moment, but then give them an opportunity to call you, give them the opportunity to email, to text, to fill out a form, to online chat. Different people will interact in different ways. It's all about how you can meet their expectations as a consumer.
Great. Now, we know a lot of the people watching today are probably wondering, what should they be doing about their search engine marketing? Another way to look at that, of course, would be why choose yellow search engine marketing or yellow SEM? Michael, we've been doing this for a very long time. What are some of the top highlights of why somebody should be considering doing more search engine marketing, and where are the opportunities that we can help them with?
Yeah, well, my favourite part is the fact that we have the best of both worlds in the sense of our campaign managers. They're all experts, specialists, they know their stuff. That's what they're there for, and they really live for SEM. But the other part too is that we have some really complex algorithms. We've invested a lot in the technology behind the programs.
Yes.
These days, it's a numbers game and an arts game at the same time. You can't do it with just a manual process. You have to have the tech behind you to give you the indicators on where to push the boundaries, but you can't do it just with tech. You have to have someone who has the mindset of that consumer at heart so that they can make the right decisions.
And it's all about delivering results. Damien, we have what's called a bid management system. What does Google say to people in general now? And they did this late last year, right? So they said to small business owners around the globe, if you're using search engine marketing, you're going to find it tricky. What's
Correct.
their recommendation?
So there was a quote that came out from Google that their AdWords platform is now essentially too complicated for most small business owners to drive. And they recommend partnering with a Google approved agency. And Yellow, here at Yellow, we are a Google Premier partner, one of a select few in Australia, which means that all of our people have undergone training and we meet some certain quality standards that Google lay down, which essentially lets the businesses out there know that, one, we know what we're doing, two, we're transparent and open with everything we do,
Yes.
and three, they can trust us to deliver on their objectives and to help them drive return on investment.
Fantastic. Michael, any final thoughts from yourself?
Well, I think in a simple way, we're here at Yellow to get you more business. So if you're wanting more business, Impression Share is a great opportunity because you know where you're going to go. So I'd say have a think about, if you want more business, let's leverage it on Impression Share and see how we can use the tech to get you more slice of that pie.
And that's because that pool is just beginning.
It's huge.
It's just growing
absolutely.
all the time. Damien, for yourself?
Yeah, look, in a similar line, I think impression share is absolutely critical. So we saw your account manager or sales advisor may even be out there with some of our customers discussing the impression share measures. For some customers, their impression shares are 40, 50, 60%, maybe higher, maybe lower. But if yours is at 50%, that means that you're only appearing for half the amount of searches that you could be. And I'd ask business owners out there, are you ignoring half the people that call you on the phone or walk through the front door of your shop or showroom? No, you're not. So why would you ignore half the people that want your product or service online?
Great. Some pretty simple and compelling ideas. I want to thank the guys, Michael and Damien, for their insights today. They come with a wealth of information and are very well accredited when it comes to the topic of search engine marketing. So thanks, team. Also on standby, of course, because this is a Yellow YouTube live feed, so there is a comment section. So we do have some people standing by. If you have any questions, you can pop those in the feed. And of course, it's a Friday, so I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. My name's Christian, and I'll see you again next time. Take care.
Yellow has great Australian businesses that you can rely on.
Yellow.
From doctors to dog groomers.
Yellow.
And did you know you can book appointments for whatever you need, all in one place?
Yellow.
Need it? Yellow has it. Find, choose, connect at yellowpages.com.au.
Yellow.